explaining this. Hi guys, I'm back. I'm back on YouTube, by the way. So, yesterday I did talk to you guys about my top 10 favorite British kings and queens from England. But this time, we're going to be ranking. We're going to be talking to you guys about the ones that I hate the most and the ones I like the best. Technically, we're looking at the lives of them, how they became king, and how was the worst king. Technically, in my opinion, I feel like there is one English king that is actually the worst king out of everyone. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not doing this for fun. It's just I want to make sure. I just want to rank them up. You know what I mean, right? Just ranking them up from worst to best. Technically, there's gonna probably be two. This is part 2, by the way. So part 1 was I talked about my top 10, which was Lady Jane Grey to George I. As you guys can see, he's actually my favorite king out of everyone else. But I have to say, I'm going to be doing my worst favorite to the best. From my least to the best. Now this time, we're going to go from my worst favorite to the best favorite. Like we did before, we're going to be doing from worst to best. And I'm going to be doing 20 of them. I mean, this video is going to be a bit long because, well, technically, I could do 2 parts. So I could do one part, I could do 10. The other part, I could do another 10. Yeah. And I'm making a video coming up soon. It's going to be posted a bit soon. It's going to be called House of Holborn. You know, the 6 musical, whatever you want to say. It's like 6 musical. So let's start with number 20. John, who is king from 1199 until 1216. John Lackland was the 4th child of Henry II. Short and fat, he was jealous of his dashing brother, Richard I, whom he succeeded. He was cruel, self-indulgent, selfish, and acrimonious, and the rising of punitive taxes united all the elements of society, critical and lay, against him. The Pope excommunicated him. On the 15th of June, 1215, at Runnymede, the Barons compelled John to sign Magna Carta, the Great Carta, which resigned the rights of all of his subjects. John died from dysentery, a fugitive from all of his enemies. He had been termed the worst king ever. I can actually agree with that, by the way. I do agree with the term the worst English king. That is true. Number 19, I'm going to go for. So for number 19 is Richard II, who was king in 1377, but he was deposed in 1399. The son of the Black Prince, Richard was extravagant, unjust, and faithless. In 1381 came the Peasants' Revolt led by Wat Tyler. The rebellion was put down with great savagery. The sudden death of his first wife, Anne of Bohemia, completely unbalanced Richard and his extravagance, acts of revenge, and tyranny returned his subjects against him. In 1399, Henry of Lancaster returned from exile and deposed Richard, becoming elected King Henry IV. Richard was murdered, probably by starvation, in Pontefract Castle in 1400. Wow! Richard died at the start of the 15th century. Yo, what the hell? Now, the reason why I picked Richard II as my 19th favorite, you guys won't know, because he was king at the age of actually, fun fact, did you guys know that Richard II was king at the age of 10? I know, right? And yeah, that is crazy. He was actually king when he was only 10. Oh, what the hell? Right, my 18th favorite British king is Edward IV, who was king in 1461 until 1483. He was, by the way, guys, another fun fact, Edward IV was king at the age of 18, by the way. And he was the one that captured Henry VI. He was the son of Richard, Duke of York, and Sidney Neville, and not a popular king. His morals were poor. He had many mistresses and had at least one illegitimate son, and even his comparators disapproved of him. Edward had his rebellious brother George, Duke of Clarence, murdered in 1478 on a charge of treason. Oh yeah! If you saw that video from History Calling, she was explaining about how the execution, it's a bizarre execution of George, Duke of Clarence in 1478. He was executed on the 18th of February that time. During his reign, the first printing press was established in Westminster by William Caxton. Edward died suddenly in 1483, leaving 2 sons, aged 12 and 9, and 5 daughters. Wow! I didn't know he had 7 children, 5 daughters, and 2 sons who were 12 and 9. Oh my god. I don't know how to say it, but I don't know why Edward IV had to execute his own brother, George, Duke of Clarence. And he was a prince, I think. Was he Prince? Oh, he was Prince. That's why. Oh, I thought he was talking about George I, but nah. He wasn't. He doesn't. By the way, guys, he doesn't exist until 1700s. Okay. My next one is my 17th favorite, Richard III. He was king in 1483 until 1485. End of the Wars of the Roses. He was the brother of Edward IV. The ruthless extinction of all those who opposed him and the illegitimate murders of his nephews made his rule very unpopular. In 1485, Henry Richmond, descendant of John of Gaunt, father of Henry IV, landed in West Wales, gathering forces as he marched into England. At the Battle of Bodswell Field in Leicestershire, Richard was defeated and killed in what was to be the last important battle in the Wars of the Roses. Archaeological investigations at a car park in Leicester during 2012 revealed a skeleton which was thought to have been that of Richard III, and this was confirmed on the 4th of February 2013. His body was reinterred at Leicester Cathedral on the 22nd of March 2015. And by the way, guys, this was actually, did you guys not know? So by the way, Richard III was the cousin. He had 2 nephews, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, and Edward V. But apparently he was accused for murdering both of his nephews in the Tower of London. It was also known as the Princess in the Tower. That's why I don't like Richard, because he basically killed his nephews, and that's when Henry VII came in and he became king. My 16th favorite is Henry VIII, who was king in 1509 until 1547. The best known fact about Henry VIII is that he had 6 wives. Most school children learn the following rhyme to help them remember the fate of each wife. It goes, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. His first wife was Catherine of Aragon, his brother's widow, whom he later divorced to marry Anne Boleyn. This divorce caused the split of Rome, and Henry declared himself the head of the Church of England. The dissolution of the monasteries began in 1536, and the money gained for this helped Henry. The money gained from this helped Henry to bring about an effective navy. In an effort to have a son, Henry married 4 further wives. Sorry, I meant wives. Please, I'm very sorry about that because I said that wrong. But only one son was born to Jane Seymour. Henry had 2 daughters, both to become rulers of England. Mary, daughter of Catherine of Aragon, and Elizabeth, daughter of Anne Boleyn. Now, sorry guys, but basically Henry VIII, I kind of like him, but I don't like him because guess what? He literally murdered 2 of his wives, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard. He both executed them. Anne Boleyn was executed in 1536, and 6 years later, Catherine Howard was executed in 1542. She was like a teenager queen. She was executed at the age of 19, but we don't know how old Anne Boleyn was when she was executed, so I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. My 15th favorite is Mary the First, also known as Bloody Mary. She was queen in 1553 until 1558. Daughter of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon. A devout Catholic, she married Philip of Spain. By the way, guys, Philip II was king of Spain at the time. Mary attempted to enforce the wholesale conversion of England to Catholicism. How do you pronounce that? I'm sorry, guys, if I'm saying this wrong. To Catholicism. That's right. She carried this out with the utmost servitude. The Politis Bishop Lentmar Ridgely and Archbishop Conmere were among those burnt at the stake. The place in Broad Street, Oxford, is marked by a bronze cross. The country was plunged into a bitter bloodbath, which is why she is remembered as Bloody Mary. She died in 1558 at Lambeth Palace in London. Oh yeah, that's remembered. Technically I picked her as my 15th favourite. Because technically by the way, guys, she burned 280,000 men. My 14th favorite king is going to go to William II, Ruthless. He was king in, my next king is 14th favorite. My 14th favorite is William II, Rufus, who was king in 1087 until 1100. William was not a popular king, given to extravagance and cruelty. He never married and was killed in the New Forest by a stray arrow whilst out hunting, maybe accidentally or possibly shot deliberately on the instructions of his younger brother, Henry. Walter Tyrrell, one of the hunting party, was blamed for the deed. The ruthless stone in the New Forest, Hampshire, marks the spot where he fell. Yeah, look, as you guys can see, this is a picture of when William II died in 1100. He was shot, by the way, guys, he was shot in the lung. Oh, that was disgusting. And he ruled for only 13 years, so that's very sad. My 13th favorite king is gonna go to George III. He was king in 1760 until 1820. I'm very sorry, guys. I said that wrong, but yeah. He was a grandson of George II and the first English-born and English-speaking monarch since Queen Anne. By the way, guys, George II was the son of George I. By the way, because he was the son of George I, who died in 1720, which we'll get to that soon. His reign was one of the excellence and the age of some of the greatest names in English literature: Jane Austen, Byron, Shelley, Keats, and Wordsworth. It was also the time of great statesmen like Pitt and Fox and great military men like Wellington and Nelson. In 1773, the Boston Tea Party was the first sign of the troubles that were to come in America. The American colonies proclaimed their independence on July 4th, 1776. George was well-meaning but suffered from a mental illness due to intermittent pornophilia and eventually became blind and insane. His son ruled as Prince Regnant after 1811 until George's death. Oh dear, that's That's so sad. Poor George III. He had suffered mental illness. And how he died, he reigned for 60 years, by the way, and he died at the age of 81, the same age as Queen Victoria died, 81. That doesn't make any sense, but that's why I picked him as my 13th favorite. Speaking of the devil, my 12th favorite is actually his son, George IV, who was king in 1820 until 1830. Known as the first gentleman of Europe, he had a love of art and architecture, but his private life was a mess. To put it mildly, he was married twice. Once in 1785 to Miss Fratisbert, secretly as she was a Catholic, and then in 1795 to Caroline of Brunswick. Miss Fratisbert remained the love of his life. Caroline and George had one daughter, Charlotte, in 1796, but she died in 1817. George was considered a great wit, but was also a buffoon, and his death was hailed with relief. Yeah, by the way, guys, there's some fun facts you need to know. So George IV was actually known as he was angry, fat, and cross. He was the one that beat Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo back in 1815. That was when George III was still king at the time. And speaking of the devil, my 11th favorite English monarch is William IV, who was king in 1830 to 1837. Known as the Sailor King, for 10 years, the young Prince William, brother of George IV, served in the Royal Navy. He was the third son of George III. Before his accession, he lived with Miss Jordan, an actress by whom he had 10 children. When Princess Charlotte died, he had to marry in order to secure the succession. He married Adeline of Saxe-Coburg in 1818. He had 2 daughters, but they did not live. He hated pomp and wanted to despise with the coronation. The people loved him because of his lack of pretension. During his reign, Britain abolished slavery in the colonies in 1833. The Reform Act was passed in 1832. This extended the franchise to the middle classes on a basis of property qualifications. Yeah, I didn't know. I'm really sorry, but technically, I don't know how the hell he had to pass the Reform Act back in 1832. And by the way, guys, this was a year after when Princess Charlotte died in 1817. I think that was the daughter of George IV of England. Technically, he died in 1830, and then William died. He died of heart failure in 1837, so he only ruled for 7 years. My 9th favorite queen. No, wait, what will we do now? Oh, yeah, that 10th. My 10th favorite is Lady Jane Grey. Now, Lady Jane Grey, we don't have a picture of her because she is not on here. So I have to read from Edward VI fame. She was only queen for 9 days, from the 10th to the 19th of July, 1553. So let's read it. Lady Jane Grey was named as the next in line to the throne. She was proclaimed queen, but Mary entered London with her supporters, and Jane was taken to the Tower. She reigned for only 9 days. She was executed in 1554, aged 17. And by the way, guys, we don't know when she was born. She was either born in 1537 or 1536. But all we know is she was executed at the age of 17, so I would say she was born in 1537, but we don't know which month she was born in. So we don't know when she was born, but we don't know what. Oh, I already know what year what month she died in. She died in February, but we don't know if. Yeah, we don't know yet. My 9th favorite British monarch is going to be Henry VII, who was king in 1485 until 1509. When Richard III fell at the Battle of Brunswick, his crown was picked up and placed on the head of Henry Tudor. He married he married Elizabeth of York and so united the two warring houses, York and Lancaster. He was a skillful politician, but acrimonious. The material wealth of the country increased greatly. During Henry's reign, playing cards were invented, and the portrait of his wife Elizabeth has appeared 8 times on every pack of cards for nearly 500 years. Now, by the way, guys, Henry VII died when he was 52, and he died of tuberculosis, along with Edward VI. He also died of tuberculosis, but he died at a young age, only 15 that time. Now, technically, I like Henry VII. I like how he defeated Richard III because he killed him at the Battle of Bosworth. And that was actually where he was killed to death. Now, my 8th favorite British monarch is Elizabeth I, who was queen in 1558 until 1603. The daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, Elizabeth was a remarkable woman, noted for her learning and wisdom. From first to last, she was popular with the people and had a genius for the selection of capable advisors. Drake Rowling, Hawkins, the Saleys, Essex, and many, many more made England respected and feared. The Spanish Armada was disgracefully defeated in 1588, and Barajas' first Vadran colony was founded. The execution of Mary, Queen of Scots, was a glorious time in English history. Shakespeare was also at the height of this popularity. Elizabeth never married. Yep, she was the last Tudor monarch who was never married. She died at the age of 69 in 1603 due to some people say it was a stroke, but I'm gonna say she died of poisoning. So technically, she was wearing makeup poisoning, and she executed her cousin in 1587. Who was Mary, Queen of Scots. She was Queen of England, by the way. Not England. Queen of Scotland, by the way. And he had a son, which was James I of England, and also 6th of Scotland, who became king after Elizabeth I's death in 1603. Guys, I'm trying to think. Oh, my 7th favorite British monarch is Charles II, who was king in 1660 until 1685. Son of Charles I, also known as the Merry Monarch, after the collapse of the Protectorate following the death of Oliver Cromwell and the flight of Richard Cromwell to France, the army and parliament asked Charles to take the throne. Although very popular, he was a weak king and his foreign policy was inept. He had 13 known mistresses, one of whom was Nell Gwyn. He fathered numerous illegitimate children, but no heir to the throne. The Great Plague in 1665 and the Great Fire of London in 1666 took place during his reign. Many new buildings were built at this time. St. Paul's Cathedral was built by Sir Christopher Wren, and also many churches still to be seen today. And yes, guys, I like Charles II. He's a good king. He was born in May 1630 to Charles I, and he became king at the age of 30, and he died at the age of 54 in 1685. And he died of a stroke, by the way, so that's that. My next favorite, who's next on the list? My 6th favorite British monarch is Queen Anne, who was queen in 1702 until 1714. Anne was the second daughter of James II. She had 17 pregnancies, but only one child survived, William, who died of smallpox, aged just 11. A staunch high church Protestant, Anne was 37 years old when she succeeded to the throne. Anne was a close friend of Sarah Churchill, the Duchess of Marlborough. How do you say that name? Sarah's husband, the Duke of Marlborough, commanded the English army in the War of Spanish Succession, winning a series of major battles with the French and gaining the country an influence never before attained in Europe. It was during Anne's reign that the United Kingdom of Great Britain was created by the Union of England and Scotland. After Anne's death, the succession went to the nearest Protestant relative of the Stuart line. This was Sophia, daughter of Elizabeth of Beaumont, James I's only daughter, but she died a few weeks before Anne, and so the throne passed to her son, George, who would later be George I of England. Yeah. Now, this is a little sad note to say. I'm very, very sorry to say, but please respect Anne, guys, because she lost all of her 18 children when she had 17 pregnancies. She was going to have 18 children. It depends, because she probably had some twins, and her only living child was Prince William, Duke of Gloucester, who was born on the 24th of July, 1689, but only lived to the age of 11. He died of smallpox on the 30th of July, 1700. Please see the video from History Corley. She will explain about what happened to Queen Anne's children. Only one of them survived, by the way. So I think she was heartbroken at the time. Oh God, sorry, my arm is literally aching. Now this is halfway. My fifth favorite British monarch is Queen Victoria, who was queen in 1837 until 1901. Now, by the way, guys, I'm not reading all of that. This is way too much for me to read, so I'm just going to read this bit. Victoria was the only child of Prince Victoria of Saxe-Coburg and Edward, Duke of Kent, fourth son of George III. And by the way, guys, she was born on the 24th of May, 1819, and after when William IV died in 1837, that same year, she became queen in June 1837 at the age of 18. She ruled England for 63 years and died in January 1901 at the age of 81 due to a stroke. And that's very sad. Oh, and this is very upsetting for Victoria. I'm so sorry, Victoria. You feel bad. Now, for my third favorite British monarch is going to go to James II and 7th of Scotland, who was king in 1685 until 1688. The second surviving son of Charles I and younger brother of Charles II. James had been exiled following the Civil War and served in both the French and Spanish army, although James converted to Catholicism in 1670. His two daughters were raised as Protestants. James became very unpopular because of his persecution of the Protestant clergy and was generally hated by the people. Following the monthly uprising, Monmouth was a legitimate son of Charles II and a Protestant, and the bloody assass of Judge Jeffreys' Parliament asked the Dutch Prince William of Orange to take the throne. William was married to Mary, James II's Protestant daughter. William landed in England and James fled to France, where he died in exile in 1701. Yep, he died at the age of 67 due to a stroke, but he went to the throne at the age of only 51 at that time. So technically, he was born in October 1633, and he was the second surviving son of Charles I, and he had a younger brother, which was Charles II. Now, my third favorite British monarch is Henry III, who was king in 1216 to 1272. Henry was 9 years old when he became king. Brought up by he became devoted to church, art, and learning. He was a weak man, dominated by churchmen and easily influenced by his wife's French relations. In 1264, Henry was captured during the rebellion of Barons, led by Simon de Montfort, and was forced to set up a parliament at Westminster. Westminster, the star of the House of Commons. Henry was the greatest of all patrons of medieval architecture and ordered the rebuilding of Westminster Abbey in the Gothic style. By the way, guys, Henry the Third died at the age of 56 at the time. He was crowned at 21. No, he was 9. Sorry, that was another time. No, he was 9 when he became king. I'm not sure how old he died, but he died in 1702 at 1272. What? That's 1702. That was when William III died, by the way. So don't worry about that. But yeah, I meant to say 1272. This is back in the 13th century. So yeah. Now on to the second favorite is going to be. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm not. Where are you? Mary II, who was queen in 1689 to 1649. Now we do have a picture of Mary II, but we need to find out how she became queen, technically. So, let's go from here. William and Mary were to reign jointly, and William was to have the crown for life after Mary died in 1694. Yes, guys, by the way, when Mary II died in 1694, her husband lived until 1702. He died in a riding. He fell off his horse during a riding accident. He broke his collarbone, which is like. The collarbone is his shoulder bone is really badly injured, or the neck. I don't know. I think the collarbone's your shoulder bone, or it's like the back of your neck. Like, you know, the collarbone. I'm not sure which part of the body it is, but I don't know what it looks like. Mary II was born in 1662 to James II, and she had a sister, Anne, who was born 3 years later, 1665, and yep, she died in December 1694. She died of smallpox, along, Anne's 11-year-old son, William, but he died in 1700. She died in 1694. She was only 32 when she died. And now, guys, the final one is the best one. My first favorite British monarch ever is going to be George I of England. Oh no, he was king in 1714 until 1727. Son of Sophia and the Elector of Hanover, great-grandson of James I, the 54-year-old George arrived in England, able to speak only a few words of English, with his 18 cooks and 2 mistresses in tow. George never learned English, so the conduct of natural policy was left to the government of the time, with Sir Robert Walpole becoming Britain's first prime minister. In 1715, the Jacobites followers of James Stuart, son of James II, attempted to supplant George, but the attempt failed. George spent little time in England. He preferred his beloved Hanover, although he was impacted in the South Sea bubble financial scandal of 1720. And, by the way, guys, he died in 1727 at the age of 67. He suffered a stroke on his carriage. I don't know why. On his way to Hanover, which is a city in Germany, modern time Germany at the time. But technically, he was the first Hanoverian king to be England and possibly Ireland as well. Whatever it is, yeah. I did not understand how he was going to be king, but I don't know why, but yeah, that's why he's the best one. But he died in 1727, though. He was 54 when he went to the throne. Oh, and he was born in May 1660 during Charles II as King of England. But he wasn't king during the 17th century. He was king in 1714 after his second cousin Anne died without any heir. She died of an unknown illness, but we don't know what type of illness it was. But I hope you guys liked that video. I'm very sorry if you guys heard that. Recording this shit. Oh, I got that. Yay. That's me.